This is Laugh or Death, hosted by keynote speaker Paul Osincup.
You are going to love my guest today. She went from Broadway to broadcasting and has not slowed down. She made her Broadway debut in Play On. She's toured in Mamma Mia and performed at Carnegie Hall, Radio City Music Hall, the Lincoln Center, and as a broadcaster and live event MC, she's interviewed everyone from Derek Jeter to R&B legend Al Green, from Liza Minnelli to Billy Porter. And now she's an MC, moderator, and a keynote speaker who teaches Fortune 500 teams how to connect, perform, and actually have fun at work. I mean, we might as well be twinsies. So please, let's welcome Wendee Lee Curtis. How you doing?
Hey, Paul. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's like, what is life if we're not going to have some fun, right?
Exactly. Stoked to have you here and to get to know you a little bit. So, as you know, the first question of the podcast is always, tell us something weird about you that you love or something weird that makes you happy.
Something weird that makes me happy. Oh, man, how much time you got?
Hey, we got all day.
I'm a theater kid. We're all weird. It's part of our ethos. I think you have to be weird to be in the club.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're not weird enough, it's like you have to let theater get you weirder over time, or it's not going to be the right fit for you.
So this is going to sound canned, but it honestly is the truth. The weird thing that actually makes me the happiest is taking someone who thinks
like abducting them.
Well, no, not like that.
No, there was just a long pause there. I was like, holy moly, what did I got myself into? So, the weird thing about me is I like to take someone, throw them in a van, and drive states away.
My daughter would laugh so uproariously at that because I'm 100% addicted to all those scary, first 48 hours. I'm weird that way. I think if I wasn't doing this, I'd be a homicide detective. So maybe that's the weird thing about me. Is that if I wasn't singing and dancing on Broadway, emceeing and doing broadcasting work, I would be a homicide detective.
So you're into those true crime podcasts and all that kind of stuff.
I am fascinated by the inner workings of human beings. And when they lean into the dark side, it fascinates me even more. I feel compelled to pull that thread and try to figure out where it went wrong. So
there's so many people that are really into that right now. And I'm always fascinated because to me, I'm like, there's nothing less relaxing than a nice murder story before bed.
And as a fellow speaker, when you go to the hotels and the live TV is there, almost singularly, the first 48 or some type of show like that is on from sun up to sundown, so you really can't get away from it.
Yeah. She thought it was going to be a beautiful romantic trip to Bermuda,
So that's maybe which is really counter to my personality when people meet me. But yeah, I think I'm really fascinated by why human beings do terrible things and figuring out how to thwart that.
Oh, I love it. That's good. Well, what was the other one you were going to say before we sidetracked you into divulging your dark side?
I love taking someone who thinks that they're terrible at what they do and proving them wrong. I think my gift is seeing your genius. And so maybe that's my weird thing, is that I have the gift of sight when it comes to seeing what someone's genius is.
Oh, I love that. Do you ever feel when you're working with other people or talking to other people or even just friends or family, man, I wish you could see yourself through my eyes?
Constantly.
Yeah.
All the time. And it really is why I got into the work that I do, because for whatever reason, the way that life is sort of structured right now, both inside of work and outside of work, is folks are really kind of taking it to the chin. No one's really being fed the narrative that they're enough. Quite the contrary. And right. So there's this constant sort of inner battling of not being enoughness. And so maybe that's also part of that weird homicide detective thing that I was talking about. It's sort of pulling on that thread and showing not only you're enough, let me show you what your genius is. Did you know that this is your superpower?
Oh, I love that. And it's also there's so much of us that we should fix, here I'm deficient in these areas, so I really should try to get more proficient at these, instead of going what am I awesome at? And let's double down on some of that. Or that's why I like the question of like, what's weird about you? Because it's like, what's unique about people that like, let's learn more about that stuff, because that's kind of some of the stuff that connects us.
Listen, we are all perfectly imperfect, and that's the way it's supposed to be. We're allowed to learn while we teach. We're allowed to be perfectly imperfect and that be enough.
I love it. And so, okay, you started out, you're in theater, and you've kind of taken this career arc as you've gone, and now you're working with organizations. Did you always know you wanted to do theater, like as a young kid? How did you get going doing that?
Oh, yeah, 100%. My mom likes to joke that I sprang from the womb with tap shoes on. I was the kid that was...
hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. Hello, my...
Hello, my tag. Yeah, listen, I was the kid that was glued Saturday mornings. This is back when, like, if you didn't catch it on TV, you couldn't watch it. Those Saturday morning MGM movie musicals, addicted. Fred Astaire, Gene Rogers, Sid Charisse, the Nicholas Brothers, all of those big budget MGM movie musicals had me in a chokehold. And I think from the time I was about 5, I was constantly putting on shows in the house. Mom and Dad come watch my show, and then, brought in my brother and sister with my allowance money to perform in the show that I would choreograph and stage, that we would always do at the foot of my parents' bed. Like we did that well into high school. Were
you the oldest kid? Are you the oldest? Yeah,
Look at you.
Well, when you said like, oh, I got my brothers and sisters, because I'm the youngest and I have 2 older sisters. And so my sisters were always like, all right, we're putting on a play for the parents, when they come in or whatever. And it's like, the amount of Academy Awards we should have won just at home, putting on plays for our parents.
100%. My little brother still knows all the lyrics to Mr. Sandman. Mr. Sandman,
because
bring me a dream.
Boom, 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 boom. Yeah.
Listen, and don't let the cousins come over or us have company. Honey, I was going to take your kid and turn them into a singing, dancing, musical theater performer before the day was over. I would just bring all of my cousins and my siblings into my room and start staging and choreographing stuff with my siblings. And then we would all put on a show. So it was written in stone for me.
See, even at that young age, you saw in people things that they didn't see. You got your cousin coming over, and they're like, "Oh, he's not good at math," and you're like, "Yeah, but he's great at sass."
Well, Paul, that's such a thing. Like, casting is actually like a gift, right? You have to figure out like what people can and can't do like quickly. And we didn't have that much time to rehearse, and so I had to quickly assess like, this cousin is good at dancing, but that one's terrible at singing, and that one's great at singing, but that one's... And then assign everyone a role, and then rehearse them to death, and then go out and do the show and get all I was just the weirdest little kid, but absolutely loved it. And then I grew up in the era of the TV show Fame, which only helped to amplify that even more. And I went to a performing arts high school. And so it was always going to be this. It was always going to be this.
Yeah, you were destined to do something on stage at some point.
Yes.
And so I know you've gone and done various musicals. Were you always mostly like dramatic theater, musical theater? Or I know you've done a little bit of comedic acting, had comedic roles.
Well, you have to do it all. So
yeah.
I grew up in Texas and Ohio. And so by the time I was in middle school, they had a theater program. And I'd been doing summer stock theater as a little kid in elementary school. I would do summer theater programs. But in middle school, I joined the theater department. That was my elective in earnest. And so the training is comprehensive. You learn what they call straight theater, which is straight acting without singing and dancing. And then once I got into the high school for the performing and visual arts in Houston, Texas, then that's even more comprehensive. Then you're also having to learn singing and dancing in addition to all of the acting. But the weird thing is, I never wanted to be a star. A lot of my fellow performers wanted to star on Broadway. I just wanted to be on Broadway. I wanted to be a part of that world, and it never occurred to me to be the person standing at the front. I just wanted to belong to that world, desperately.
And yeah, be if you're if I can go do something I love, being part of the ensemble and part of the team, then hey, that is and honestly, that's a really good perspective of you to have of anything, because you could always be going even if you are the lead, then it's I want to be a lead in a bigger production, and then I want to do this and this, as opposed to I'm doing what I love. This is amazing.
Correct. Paul, you're going to think I'm so weird, but I remember the first big understudy role that I had. I had a principal, principal is like a lead. I had a small principal understudy in my Broadway debut, which was this Duke Ellington musical called Play On, right? Which is now, the theater's been renamed. It's the Lena Horne Theater. But at the time it was the Brooks Atkinson. So that was my debut on Broadway. It was this Ellington musical set in Harlem in the 40s. So much fun, right?
Wow.
All of the original cast members from some of the biggest musicals in history, like Andre de Shields, who was the Wiz in The Wiz, original cast members from Dreamgirls, original cast members, Tony Winters from Jelly's Last Jam, and then me on my first professional equity gig, and also the baby in the show. So I went from being the eldest daughter in my family to in the industry being the baby everywhere I went. And it was such an interesting journey. I remember when I booked Mamma Mia, and I actually went to the audition because part of refining your gift as a performer is there's one set of skills you have to use for auditioning and another for performing. Mm-hmm. So when you're auditioning, you have to get it quick. They're going to rotate the lines a couple of times. They're going to show you the combination, then they're going to clear the floor, and they're going to be 20 of you out. And if you haven't figured out how to live that singing or that dancing like this fast, you're out, no matter how talented you are. So your gift has to be calibrated for warp speed for auditions. So in order to make that happen, you audition for everything, whether you're right for it or not. It just keeps you sharp. And there wasn't anything that I felt I was right for to audition for. So I went to the Mamma Mia audition. And this is actually a powerful lesson in showing up as yourself. I am not a pop singer. And Mamma Mia is the music of ABBA, which is, wait for it, pop music. I'm a dancer who sings jazz. We'll put it that way. And so because I wasn't really right for the role, I didn't have any fear or trepidation about the audition process. I was like, I'm completely wrong for this. So I went into the singing audition and I said, I know y'all want to hear pop, but do you mind if I just sing what I really love? And I saw all the people sitting at the table for the audition and they go, sure, Wendee Lee, go ahead. And so I just got up there and sang my heart out, singing a song that I loved from, Thoroughly Modern Millie. And that led to a callback for an understudy for one of the two leads. And I was like, oh, bleep. Well, I wasn't working and I wasn't going to say no to the callback. So I was like, okay, I guess I better learn this song and I better learn this scene. But again, I know, this is what I mean. I know I'm completely wrong for this role. Right. So I go in with abandon and I'm just cutting up and acting up. I'd never been hired to be funny. It's for the mom's two friends, Rosie and Tanya. I was always the come hither girl. I was a hoofer. I was known as a really strong hoofing tap dancer and the sort of come hither, dance girl.
Oh, right,
there was nothing in my resume that said this chick is funny. Nada, nunca. And so I think.
So did that make you nervous? Wait, I gotta be the funny one?
I was confused, Paul. I was like, I'm not funny. I was just so confused. And it was interesting because those two roles are really, really different. Tanya's definitely a vixen. She's definitely come hither. So I understood them wanting me to maybe understudy her. But Rosie's a complete goofball. She's wearing the Birkenstocks and a caftan and, she donates to PETA and is just as close to frumpy. And there wasn't anything I'd ever done in the catalog of work that's looked or sounded like that girl, but that's the person they wanted me to show up as at the callback. And I'll never forget, I got the call and they offered me the role. And I'll just fast forward you. At some point, you do have to go on as an understudy. I was hired as an ensemble performer. I was like, love it. We're dancing, we're singing, dancing queen. What? It's a catalog of ABBA. This is a fun show. But then Rosie went on vacation. And I was expected to go on. And I remember this like it was yesterday. My hands start to shake just thinking about it. I was like, I'm either going to throw up or I'm going to pass out. And I'll never forget. It was maybe an hour before half hour. And I called the director who had hired me for the role on the payphone. We were in Minneapolis. And I was just crying on the phone, so unprofessional. I said, I don't think I can do this. I said, I don't think, and I was the only Rosie understudy in the building. So it was either me go on or no show.
Right. But you needed a big sister, Wendee Lee, to see something in you that you didn't have.
I will never forget this man. He said to me, Wendee, you're hilarious. I said, I am? He said, because I do remember him laughing at my callback, but I don't know why I thought he was being polite. I just thought he was being polite. He was like, you're hysterical. I was like, I don't believe me, but I believe you. So I'll do what I did in the audition. He said, that'll be more than enough. And it changed, it recalibrated something in me. I still didn't want to be the lead, but I was happy to step up as an understudy whenever the lead either couldn't go on or went on vacation.
Well, let me ask you this. Did you, when you performed during the time when you were taking her spot, did you get laughs?
I did.
Yeah, so you must be funny. That's what I love about comedy is it's a meritocracy. You don't get to decide if you're funny. The audience does. Like, and it's like, I think a lot of my jokes are funny until I go practice them at an open mic. And then I'm like, oh, only like a tenth of these are funny. And then you weed them out. You know what I mean? Like the audience
100%.
decides whether or not this stuff's funny.
And that's true. We're there to serve. Yeah. We're there to lift up the audience.
Yeah.
And you have to have this weird combination of like ego, hubris, and humility, all sort of interfacing at the same time. And I just couldn't let the cast down. So I just went out there and I just gave it my all. And instead of leading like this, I changed my entire physicality and just turned into a walking, talking goofball. And it was fine. The woman who had that role was such a tour de force. That didn't help either, right? Like she was born to play that role.
Yeah.
So
and you're like, I know I'm not her, so I just got to be a different version of me, you know, some kind of more loosened up version of myself and get out there. That's what I love about theater and performing arts, though, too, is that there's something about performance that even if you're scared or nervous or unsure, the more you commit, the better, rather than like if you hesitate or pull back or whatever. Because even though you were scared and nervous, you just committed to it and said like, I can do this. And I think about that so much just in life that like, first of all, you said yes to this audition. They were like, hey, we want you to do the callback. And you're like, okay. But you said yes, you stepped in, even though you were like, I don't even know this is for me. Then you get the call to be on stage, and it's like, okay, even though you are scared out of your mind. And a lot of times the best stuff we do in life is when we commit, even when we're scared.
100%. You're never going to know what your limit is until you test it. My put-in rehearsals, when you're an understudy, before you actually understudy that role the first time, they have an entire rehearsal just for you, a put-in rehearsal, just your scenes and your sections. And my put-in rehearsal was so bad. Our musical theater director, and this is no like dig at Brits, he happened to be a British man, and his name was Martin Axe. And A-X-E.
Oh, yes, Martin Axe. All right.
Yeah, it's exactly what he sounds like. Very, very British. And I'll never forget, like right before my put-in rehearsal was so bad. And you can tell, like that's the one thing about living and traveling and touring with a company. You're all like calibrated to one another. It was so bad that as I was sitting in the dressing room right before I went in, he came into my dressing room and he tapped me on the shoulder in a very British way. He said, well, you know, just do your best.
Oh, man. Like in such a sad way. Like,
I was like, no, he didn't. Wait a minute.
Oh man, that is not very encouraging.
You're vacillating between the truth of what you're actually doing in that moment and where you need to get to, and the fact of the matter is,
he's like having your funeral over there. Yeah,
it was a mirror. I mean, good, bad, or indifferent. What he said, my put-in was horrific. It was so bad. But then that muscle memory, if you've ever ridden a bike, once you get on it, you just start writing. And I heard the overture and the lights hit me and I was in the costume, and that inner thing, that spark, it's like an engine. When you smash on the gas and you turn the ignition, I was on, and that was it. And there was no letting the cast down.
And I'm curious, you had mentioned before, like, so knowing that you needed to step up as the understudy and be this character, and it's a comedic role for you, which you weren't used to at the time. You didn't find yourself very funny, but you said, I had to loosen up and kind of be a sillier version of who I am. How do you do that? And I know, like, being in an ensemble in a lot of improv teams, we have some of the goofiest warm-ups and things to get out of our head that most people would just cringe to even think of doing. But like, how do you, when you're taking yourself too seriously, get out of that headspace and loosen yourself up?
Well, I think you named it right there, is physicality. So on Broadway, you have singer dancers and dancer singers, and they serve different purposes in the cast. The Broadway models changed. So there was a time when you could just be a dancer and sing well enough and still be in a Broadway show. But the budgeting and the money around Broadway is such that you really have to be able to do all of it. If you're in the show, even in the ensemble, you have to cover at least one lead, and sometimes as many as 4. And so I approached it through physicality. As a dancer singer, I was like, how would someone who isn't calibrated as super sexual, like how are they walking through the world? What does it feel like to be in that body? And then I just sort of, I took on that affectation in my body. So for me, I had to physicalize it first, so then I could feel it and then project that in the performance. But it's different for everyone. Sometimes it can be music. There's a certain music that puts you in a certain mental, emotional state. There can be a smell, right? That you smell that puts you in your power or brings you into femininity or masculinity. Whatever it is for you, there is no right or wrong. It's just, does it work for you? And for me, the approach was always physical first.
All right, quick pause. I want to mention something I am stoked about. Let's be honest, most guys aren't going to therapy until things in their relationship are already going not so great. And if you've ever felt like you're doing the best you can in your relationship, but like something is just missing, trust me, you're not alone. And most of us, we don't get taught this stuff. We're just told, like, you got to communicate better, but no one ever shows us or tells us exactly how to do that. And that's why I am loving Caveman to Casanova. It's not a bunch of lectures and it's not therapy. It's just simple, practical tools that help you show up as the best version of yourself. So whether it's like you want to learn how to handle conflict a little bit better or say what you actually mean without somehow making things worse, which we've all been there, it helps you do those things. It just starts with a quick quiz, and then it tailors the program for you based on what you could do a little bit better and what you're already doing really well. So if you want to be more intentional in your relationship without having to make it like a whole thing, then check out Caveman to Casanova. Or if you want to give your man a little nudge, I've put a link in the show notes. Check it out. I love that. Yeah, I'm really similar with, like, in an improv scene, sometimes you're taking the stage very confidently, like, oh, I've got a great idea right now, and you just jump into it, or you know where your scene partner's going to go. And there's other times where you're just taking the stage because someone needs to take the stage and you don't have anything yet. And that's when, like, physicality, I'll just start physically doing something, making walking with my shoulders shrugged or my legs bowed or something, and then figure out, okay, who is this character as I go, because it just gets me out of like worrying about the right thing to say at the time. So yeah, that's a really good tip. I haven't even thought about like the smell thing too. That's so smart.
Oh yeah, but what you're describing is you commit to the bit. You just come in with something, right?
Yep.
Improv is so hard. It is. It is. Everybody. That is a gift. That is a gift. Just say.
It's a lot of fun.
Thank you. Just say thank you and yes. Because I see you. I'd say, oh no. It is difficult. It's very
awesome.
difficult. Yeah. And so like committing to the bit, you come in with something, and then I'm Meisner based, and then you see what they send you back, and then before you know it, you're playing. Thus the play.
Right.
So
well, and that's. I think even that metaphor is so good, even with teams and organizations, of like getting comfortable with being in the not knowing, maybe where tomorrow will take us or what's next, but taking imperfect action or trusting the person across from you and going, all right, well, I'm at least going to, we need to move forward, and I'm going to trust my ensemble here that they've got my back, and I'm going to take some kind of action knowing that if we've all got the same purpose in mind, then we're going to make great things happen.
I agree 100%. It's one of the superpowers of some of the best teams is having, so on Broadway, we have certain sacred ethoses that we can converge around that makes it not only safe, but it empowers us to bring all of our gifts. So the simplest one would be full out. On Broadway, there's no marking unless you're in rehearsal and the director or the choreographer tells you you can mark, which is sort of like marking out what the steps would be. The expectation is that you are going to perform full out. And not only is that expectation there, you're rewarded for it. They need to see who can do the hardest things with the most ease because you're doing 8 shows a week, 6 days a week. And so in order to ensure that the show can go on and people aren't getting harmed or hurt, bring it. Whatever your gift is, Broadway says, we'll use it. Not, well, we need you to hide that because this person has more tenure. No, whoever's got it gets it. Whoever's got it gets it.
So how have you seen people who aren't Broadway actors or people in organizations use that ethos or ritual of full out? Either just in their own lives or in an organization.
How have I seen them use it full out?
Yeah. Or that concept of like full out.
I think they've been waiting. They've been waiting to hear it. They've been waiting for someone to give them permission. There's a lot of sort of like genuflecting and politicking and positioning that can happen in organizations intentionally, unintentionally, for whatever reason. And so when I watch it happening, they look free. They're like, finally, someone said I can bring all of my gifts to this moment. I can bring all of my talents and gifts to this project. And then the leadership or the management says, oh, wait a minute. I didn't even know I had that kind of talent on my team. I didn't even know that person was keeping that in reserve because their title or the position requires that they do exactly this. And again, while on Broadway we revere the people who have tenure within our organization, we don't genuflect to them. Yeah. If you have 4 Tonys, the expectation is actually that you hold these sacred tenets even more sacredly than someone who's in their debut performance. Not that you flout them, because you have that tenure, which can be different in like film and television, right? That whole star treatment. And Broadway's blue collar is a blue collar apprentice-based kind of work. And so the more tenure you have, the higher the expectation that you're going to protect those sacred tenets and not denigrate them.
That's such a good cue for leaders in organizations too, of like, look, if you want people to go full out, you've got to empower them to do that and let them know like all of your unique gifts and skills are valued. Don't hold back something. Like if you're a great presenter and we've never asked you to present for our clients or whatever, man, we need to tap into that skill set, even if you're in an admin position that doesn't usually call for that. It's like, I think it's a cue for leaders to go, hey, you are the one who is responsible for helping people unearth these gifts that they have and let them know that they can use all of that.
I love watching. Essentially what I do is I take the audience and in 10 minutes I turn them into a performing cast from a Broadway show.
Yes.
But when I jump on the stage, the first thing I ask is who likes theater? And people don't understand. I'll maybe ask 3 or 4 questions. They don't understand that they're self-selecting in that moment. And not in a way that makes them feel shy or reticent, but in a way that reminds them that this is a gift that you have. This is a facility and ability that you have. It makes it all easier when the people that have those unique gifts are working in their gift, when they're working in their zone of excellence and not just competence. And so it makes your team more nimble. Broadway continued during COVID once everything opened back up because we are nimble like that, because we not only support, but we revere our understudies. Broadway is one of those rare places where the person who understudies the lead gets just as much love and cachet and respect as the lead. Mm-hmm. And so one of the most difficult things a Broadway performer can do is what's called a mid-show swing-in. So let's say I'm playing Tanya and Rosie in Mamma Mia, and I start the show and I'm doing Tanya. And at some point, the lady who plays Rosie becomes ill during the show or just can't continue. And I'm the only person in the building that knows that role.
Wow,
on Broadway, it's not at all unusual for you to swing into the other role in real time.
Wow,
and someone else to step up into your understudy. And it makes, when you have a bench with that level of resilience and collectivity, there's nothing you can't do. There's nothing your team can't do.
And that type of teamwork, that's why, like, in talking about like improv ensembles, it's similar in that, you know, I tell people all the time that I've been a part of a lot of teams that, you know, high functioning teams at work, athletic teams, but by far an improv ensemble performing team is the most high functioning team I've ever been a part of, because the core ethos of, hey, I've got your back and we are all here to make each other look good no matter what, you know? And so if more teams were able to find that spirit within them, there is no such thing like on Broadway, the example you gave where, hey, someone gets ill or breaks their foot or something during a scene, and there's no like, oh, well, that's not my job, you know, come in as Tanya or whatever. Like, you can't do that. The show must go on, and we are going to, as a team, make it happen.
Or it all falls apart, right? If there's only one person on your team that can you're already in trouble. You're already in trouble. That the apprentice-based model of theater has served theater so well, because all of these ethoses, all of these practices, all of this refinement, just, it's iron sharpening iron. You know, my first Broadway show, I was the youngest, and I was the only person who had never done a Broadway show. I told you all the people who were in that show, but I cannot tell you how many of the leads in our show pulled me to the side and sat me down and poured into me. I must have looked perpetually confused. There must have been this perpetual look of confusion on my face. But that they needed me to succeed, because my success was also theirs. Yeah. And so while we may compete in the audition, once you have the show, you have both the responsibility and the privilege of working in that space. Your job is safe, unless you do something crazy, you know, unless you do crazy.
Right.
That's your job. You can work in that show until the show closes or you decide to leave. And so that psychological safety allows us to do preternaturally talented things. I've never been more talented than I was when I was performing on Broadway. I just have never been sharper. It demands that you use every inch and iota of your gifts 8 times a week.
Yeah, a lot. Well, I mean, that's got to be exhausting. And I love what you said too about like your success depends on their success. And I think that's something we miss often in like the work world is, you know, if I know that like hospitals, for example, they are always wanting to get the highest customer satisfaction scores. And my nurse could be great, my doctor could be great, but the person at the front desk is also part of that ensemble performing. And if they aren't, you know, treating the customers in a very good way, then you may lose your customer satisfaction scores right there, because you're not maybe mentoring that person enough or paying enough attention to that area of the team that like, hey, we're losing some audience applause here because 100%. We're not embracing some of these cast members.
That's so true. It's actually the hospital system that I get all of my medical care through. I actually chose for that very reason. No matter what kind of specialist I'm seeing, that reception that I get as soon as I walk in is high level, is consistently high level. And I've remarked on that a couple of times. I'm actually the person who does fill out the survey, not just like to complain, but when it's exemplary, let me give you your flowers. And That's a very real thing.
You're probably a
people are
tough
looking
customer
for.
too, as a theater kid. You walk in, you expect them to be like, "Oh, brother, brother." They throw flowers at you. You're like, "Thank you very much."
It's so wild. Most of the theater people that I know, like we kind of get all of our off on stage, and then once we exit the stage, we're just calm.
I know.
You can only be on 100 for so long before
Right.
you burn out. So
Right.
we save it for the floodlights.
Yeah, exactly. But that is, you could just inject that right into your veins and be like, "Oh, this is wonderful." Yeah.
It's a great world. It's a great world to have called home for so long. It absolutely changed everything about me.
Are there
Everything
other
about it.
rituals that you think people should know about or take to heart that come from Broadway?
Every Broadway show does circle every night before the show goes on. Do you guys do that in improv?
Yeah, I mean, we probably a version of it. We warm up, we get together in a circle. The last thing we all say is we look each other in the eye, say, "I got your back," before we go on stage after a warm up. So it's probably something similar. What do you all do?
Same. And circle changes a little bit when an understudy goes on for the first time. So when an understudy goes on for the first time, they stand in the center of the circle. Everyone puts one hand on the person in the center, and then they grab hands around the circle, and we pour all of our energy and love and support into that person. And
I love that.
We are not only performing the show that night, but we're also taking care of that understudy for their first time. If the understudy happens to be in the wrong place on stage, we don't point that. We just shift. Or if the place is like the wrong place and they might get hurt or whatever, we'll just fake the funk and like move them around like a dancer to where they're supposed to be. We had a leading lady who went into labor. She was performing and went into labor, and her understudy had one evening and one morning. So she went into labor late afternoon. The understudy came in that evening to rehearse a little bit, and then came in the next morning to rehearse. She had zero rehearsals. She had zero rehearsals.
Wow.
And the assistant stage manager was with the understudy the entire time with the script, like walking her around backstage. But we all just, everyone should know what it feels like to be taken care of like that. Mm-hmm. While you're working.
I think at the very base of that, it's such a beautiful metaphor of like, everyone is circled around the new person, putting their energy into them. And at the very base of that is empathy of, I remember what this feeling was like to be new and scared and unsure. And I think we lose that outside of like a theater environment. We lose that in our everyday lives of the new person at work or in a role, and how scary that is to be doing anything for your first time or with new people. And so how could any of us show that empathy in a way of like, hey, I'm pouring all my energy and taking care of you because I know this is probably pretty scary for you.
100%. And the thing I think I hear a lot, because I also facilitate a women in leadership program at Cornell, is I think one of the biggest complaints that I hear from a lot of my cohorts is they just feel like they're using just an iota of their gifts, that they feel stymied. They feel stymied by what they want to do. And so sort of the reflexive thought is, well, let me move up and have more responsibility, and maybe that will help me feel like I'm using more of my gift. But management, leadership, that's a different kind of skill setting and gift using. When there's a great likelihood that where they're at actually may be the best fit, but they need an opportunity to actually pour all of their magnificent gifts into it.
Right.
So
yeah, and the next position up may not be the answer too.
Correct.
Like the next position up may be like, it's different tools you're going to use, but it's not really what you're great at. And so how could you use your gifts differently or create the job you're looking for in some way in that role? Yeah.
There's so much untapped talent out there. I'm telling y'all, your employees are dying to show you what they can do. They're dying to show you what they can do. And what happens is they end up being frustrated, and ultimately they end up leaving. And they leave to go to something else because they're hoping they'll be able to show this organization. They'll be able to bring their gifts fully to that organization and show them what they can do. But I am telling you, The people that get up every day and go to work, that love what they do, that have chosen these professions, they're dying to show you what they can do.
And can you imagine, I mean, taking this metaphor to heart, like going to see your favorite Broadway musical or show and seeing a version of it where the director told people what to do so much that it stymied their gifts and said, no, not as much of that, not as much of this. No, let's hold back a little bit on the pizzazz, you know, that kind of thing. And you're seeing this like muted version of your favorite show. You'd be so disappointed to see that. But that's what we can do when we're like trying to overmanage people or not empower them to just like, hey, be yourself, bring out whatever it is you can, take care of our customers in your own unique way. That's the way people are going to respond best anyway.
And I love that example of the director that you use, because it's a collaboration. You know, everyone in theater is tasked with a very specific set of responsibilities. The director's task oversees everything that touches that production. Choreographer, just the dance. They shouldn't and won't be giving you notes about your singing. Musical director won't be giving you choreographic notes. And as performers, it's forbidden for us to give each other notes. The sacred vision of the show is held in those three people: the director, the musical director, and the choreographer. And so that clarity allows us to collaborate in really clear and direct ways. We understand, it's a little like the military, but with like jazz hands and glitter. They
put on way better parades.
Listen, honey, we can march too. First big musical I ever did was George M.
No, I'm saying the theater kids put on way better parades.
Yes,
yeah,
it's true. But it's this really interesting mashup of discipline and freedom that are coexisting in the space at the same time. And me being a newbie, with this being my debut on Broadway, walking into the rehearsal space, I received just as much respect as the person that has 5 Tonys. I promise you, this is not me being euphemistic. We need that equalizing energy so that we can excavate. Mm-hmm. Particularly when the work is a new work, right? Rather than something that's been done a million times and then you're just trying to put your personal stamp on it. But when it's a new work, we need that level setting so that we can get in there and co-create, and we can turn whatever this thing is that's been written in black and white into something living and breathing, and we can embody it. Because musicals only rehearse for 6 weeks, and most Broadway shows, you don't even get into the theater to actually rehearse until 10 or 11 days before the first public performance. Most people don't know that. You're in a rehearsal studio. You know, Broadway invented hybrid work. You got, dancers rehearsing over here in one room. You got principals rehearsing over there and another. Everyone's in all these different rooms, and we're dancing around with tape on the floor in a rehearsal space. And then when we finally do get to the theater, the first thing we do isn't dance across the stage or sing across the stage. It's stand here or stand there so the lighting guy can light you.
Yeah, you got to block it out and go, okay,
Correct.
We've been practicing in this studio forever. Now we're actually on the stage. Now where do I walk over to that next scene? Yeah.
And we've not heard the score with a full orchestra. We've only had a pianist. So then after we do that for those people, guess what we then do? We then sing for the orchestra. We're still not performing on the stage. We're just standing there and singing. So this process and these sacred ethoses that we use give us the space to use it all, to use it all. I thought I was talented until I got to Broadway, and then I figured out how talented I needed to be to stay in that space.
And wouldn't we all be so lucky to be able to work in any environment that takes us to levels that we never thought we could go? That it's like, hey, I thought I was tapped out, but this team around me is taking me to a whole new level. I want before we end, I want to make sure: are there any moments in your Broadway career that stick out to you as just funny moments, like gaffes, failures, slip-ups, anything that just made you laugh, or any time when humor kind of helped you through a difficult time?
This one might be TMI. Okay, so in
Never.
Mamma Mia, at the very end of Mamma Mia, there's, if you've seen the movie or if you've seen the musical, there's like a concert that happens at the very end. So what you'll see is the mom and her two friends, Tanya and Rosina, sort of rise up out of the center of the stage in like this Charlie's Angel like profile. And then, you know, it's essentially a concert from there on. The lights come up and everyone in the house and the audience is dancing. Well, you go from the wedding scene to running under the lift. It's a 57-second fast change. 5-7. You have 57 seconds to change from the costume you were wearing in the wedding to this like spandex platform boot outfit. And
I can't change my mind in under a minute. I mean, let alone an outfit.
It's the most humbling thing you'll ever do. So you're just standing in the wings in a taped out box with glow tape on it with a smile and a thong. And 4 people you just met shining flashlights on every part of your body. And somebody saying foot, arm, leg. And people were touching all of your kibbles and bits and stuffing it into things and zipping. And then somebody grabs your hand and they run you under the stage and you squat down like a kid under the bleachers. And a little red light goes beep, 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 beep. And then the lift starts to go. And suddenly you're a rock star.
That is amazing. Yeah, you go from like feeling like just the lowest form of yourself, just like foot, arm, you know, like the flabby part of this person's leg, you know, whatever. You're like, oh my God, what is happening? And then all of a sudden you're on a stage and there's a whole audience. You're like, I'm awesome. All right. I'm not self-conscious at all.
It's very intimate. I don't know how I ended up in theater because I really deep down I'm a prude. But you're just standing there in a thong and a smile and everyone is backstage and you're just, folks are grabbing and touching and moving things and you just, it's the work that has to be done so that we can show up in that final moment and bring it home.
Man, Wendee Lee Curtis, people shining flashlights on her and she's still standing there with a thong and a smile.
Listen, they say a
great.
Coke and a smile. It's really a thong and a smile.
Yeah,
so yes.
Exactly. Hey, thank you so much. People, if you're interested in learning more about Wendee Lee Curtis and the keynotes that she can do for your organization, go to wendeeleecurtis.com. Wendee, anything else you want anyone to know?
You know, I keynoting is somewhat relatively newer to the work that I've been doing. There's a lot of through lines between Broadway and the events industry. I've been emceeing and moderating for a really long, couple of decades now. I think I'm aging myself. But it is something that I do love and enjoy doing, is moderating and emceeing as well. So if you're looking for an MC that can sing at the drop of a hat, because I've been asked to do that too.
Oh,
I'm definitely your girl.
You're an M-sing.
But
Trademark.
MC.
Yeah, you have that.
You can sit next to me, Paul. You can sit next to me. I'm an MC.
Yeah. Well, we'll take this show on the road at some point. Yeah. So we will have Wendee's information in the show notes. You can click right on it. Wendee, I'm hoping that at some point we'll be able to like bookend a conference or event together or something, and I'll get to meet you in person.
Listen, say less. I'd love nothing more. You are a delight. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. And everybody, go ahead and subscribe wherever you're listening or watching. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to Laugh or Death with Paul Osincup. If you're planning a conference or event and want something smart, meaningful, and actually funny, book Paul to speak. To learn more or to get a copy of his book, The Humor Habit, visit laughordeath.com.